Hi Hermits, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dara and today we are going to answer one big question. Do I read my birthday books? Well, let me give you a little bit of backstory here. So every year on my birthday, which is the 7th of June by the way, I treat myself to some books. Usually I set a limit of like 3 to 4 full priced books. If I go Kindle, then I get more, so it's like the same sort of value. But I just like to buy myself books for my birthday. It's an act of self-care. It's a great way of making sure that you get a birthday gift you know you're gonna like. And it's a tradition that I just really enjoy, so I'm not gonna stop. But I thought it would be fun to go back through the things that I've bought myself for my birthday in the past and just see if I've read them. It also might be a little glimpse into maybe how some of my tastes have changed, which is always a fun time. Now, to do this, I've gone back through my Amazon order history, which was embarrassingly extensive, to look at the things that were purchased for my birthday. And I went back to 2015, so that's when I started this little tradition. Prior to that, I did a similar thing, but with DVD box sets. We won't go into that. But let's have a little look at some of these books, whether I've read them, whether I love them, whether I know my taste, whether I have terrible taste. I don't know, we'll see. So in 2015, which is the first year of, birthday books, I purchased 4, all on my Kindle. The first was Bitter Greens by Kate Forsyth, and this is a Rapunzel retelling that I absolutely loved. I remember distinctly reading it while I was on holiday and I couldn't put it down. I read it all in one day. It was so much fun. Rapunzel has always been one of my favourite fairy tales, and this is probably the best retelling that I've ever read because it just oozed like historical fiction, just lusciousness. It was a really fun time. The second book that I bought for my birthday that year was The Mermaid's Sister by Carrie Ann Noble. And this is another fun one. And I remember at the time when I read it, I thought, you know what, I want to get a physical copy of this so that one day I can read it to my kids. It's just such a lovely story. So yeah, I've read that one too. The third book that I bought for myself was The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Read it. It was fun. I still haven't seen the movie adaptation and I do want to, but yeah, it was an enjoyable read. I'm seeing a lot of whimsy in this first year of birthday books because the final thing that I picked up was the Anne of Green Gables collection. And I remember this was on a Kindle Daily Deal and it was 99p for the full collection. What a steal. And I haven't read the full collection yet, but I've read some of it. Anne of Green Gables has always been a favourite of mine. I remember the adaptation from the 90s, I think it was from the 90s, that starred Megan Follows, and it was just a firm favourite of mine. My mum recorded it on VHS tapes when it was on TV, and I just used to watch it over and over and over again. I love it. And I actually tried to source the DVDs for myself and was really unsuccessful in that endeavour. And then a friend I have in the US managed to find them for me and mail them to me, and it was literally the best day. When they arrived in the post, it was the best day. Maybe I should do a vlog in the future where I read all the Anne of Green Gables books and watch all the DVDs, because that would be a lush day. Well, it would have to be a weekend because that would take a while, but that's sounding pretty appealing to me right now. So all in all, I would say 2015 was pretty successful. I bought 4 books, if we're counting the Anne of Green Gables collection as one book, and enjoyed them all. So yes, 2015 Tara knew what she was about. Now let's move on to 2016 Tara. The first one was The Bitches of Ever After by Barbara and Nino. This was a Kindle book. I think this was like another Kindle Daily Deal. In fact, I think all of these were Kindle Daily Deals. And I have read that one. It wasn't great. It was like a fairy tale retelling with all of our like typical fairy tale princesses being kind of snarky bitches. I thought it sounded fun. It was okay. It's the first in the series that I didn't feel compelled to finish, so that probably tells you something. The second book that I bought that year was American Rose by Karen Abbott, which is a biography of Gypsy Rose Lee, who was a cabaret singer. And I decided to unhaul that one. And when I say unhaul, like I have a little method for unhauling Kindle books, which is moving them into a folder that I've named Not For Me, just because I've decided I don't want to read them anymore and I don't want them filling up my library. And that has been moved into that folder because I also ended up with an ARC for a book called Mama Rose's Turn, which is a biography of the same family but from like the mother's perspective. And after reading that, I sort of didn't necessarily feel compelled to spend more time immersed in that family. So then we have The Wedding Shroud by Elizabeth Storrs, which is a book set in ancient Rome, and I thought it sounded really like fun at the time. But I just never wanted to pick it up, and so recently when I was clearing out my Kindle, I also moved that into the Not For Me folder, just because if I've owned it for 6 years and never been remotely close to opening it, it's probably not something that I'm going to get to. So 2016 Dad didn't do such a great job. Now let's look at 2017 Dara and see how she did. So we have 1 ebook that year and 2 physical books. So the physical books were both art related. So we had Intuitive Painting Workshop by Elena Hennessy and The Art of Whimsical Stitching by Joanne Sharp. And those aren't really the type of books that you would read cover to cover. They're more like art tutorials and guides. I have read them both, but it wasn't like I sat down and just read them all in one go. I've sort of like dipped in and out over the years. But both were great, both were enjoyable, both taught me something. And then we have The Somnambulist by Essie Fawkes, which is this delightful like gothic mystery sort of situation set in Victorian England. And it gives me like Northanger Abbey meets Rebecca, but with like a darker twist, which was chef's kiss. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved that author. Like, she cannot do a thing wrong in my eyes. I've loved every book of hers that I've ever read. So I would say 2017, pretty successful birthday year. Then we have 2018. So in 2018, we had 3 ebooks and 3 physical books. So the physical books were all non-fiction. So we had one called Pick 3 by Randy Zuckerberg, which is like kind of a productivity guide of sorts. And yeah, I've read that one. Then we have Known by Mark Schaefer, which is all about building a brand. I haven't read that one yet, but it is still up there on my shelf. Then we have Unmentionables by Therese O'Neill. I've read that one and that one was a really fun time. So it's a non-fiction book about Victorian life, specifically like sex and femininity and like clothing, and it's just like a fun guide to history, and I have recommended it to multiple people. I had a really good time reading that. Then the ebooks that we have are Gods of Love by Nicola Mustin. So this, I believe, like, it's been a long time since I read this. If I remember rightly, this is kind of a mythological retelling, but with the gods in question being in like modern day life. And I remember it being fun. I can't remember an awful lot about the plot, but I remember reading it really quickly and having a good time with it. Then I got an ebook version of 8 Cousins by Louisa May Alcott, which is a childhood favourite of mine. My grandma had the physical copy that I used to read when I was little, and I just really needed my comfort blanket and to reread it in the moment. And so I bought that and I did read the ebook version. I've read the physical version multiple times as well. I just love it. And then we have The Wicked Cometh by Laura Carlin. I haven't read that one yet. That is a historical fiction. I can't remember off the top of my head what it's about. I should look into that. But I think all in all, like, that was a decent year. So out of 6 books, I've read 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 out of 6 is a pretty good time. In 2019, that was the year of my book buying ban. On my birthday, I did pick up an audiobook via Audible, so we'll count that. And it was The Last Black Unicorn by Tiffany Haddish, and it was hilarious. It's a memoir. I listened to that while redecorating my bedroom, and it definitely made the time pass a lot quicker. And then I also bought 2 physical books while stuck at the airport. I was flying out to Spain to celebrate my birthday with a friend of mine, and my plane was delayed by like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And I didn't have a lot to do with myself, so I wandered around the bookshop at the airport and picked up Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I've read and loved. It was one of my favourites from last year. And 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, which I haven't read. I read the first few pages and got bored, so closed it, haven't opened it since. Then in 2020, I went a bit wild. In 2020, I bought 15 books for my birthday. They were all either ebooks or audiobooks, and do you know what? I'm not going to feel guilty because 2020 was a time, so whatever I needed to take care of my mental health is what I was going to give myself. But let's have a look really quickly at what these are and whether I've read them or not. First we have Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. So I know this is an African inspired fantasy, and it is one that I still want to read, but I've resisted a little bit just because I've heard that it's quite a dense and complex fantasy, and like my relationship with fantasy is still in like the baby bird phases. So I haven't read that one yet. And then we have Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi, which is a modern day fairy tale which is inspired by gingerbread, which comes up in, you know, a lot of like old school fairy tales. And this is one I still definitely want to read. It's on my list of 22 books I want to read in 2022. So hopefully I'm going to get to that one really soon. Then we have Well Read Black Girl by Glory Edim. I have read that. So that is an anthology of essays by different Black women, all talking about Black representation in literature, and sort of the, not necessarily the first time that they saw Black women represented in literature, but a significant time. So it's filled with some really great book recommendations, and I do really recommend that one. It was good. Then we have Worthy Human by Tracy Litt, which is a self-help book. My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. So we know what this is about. This is about a woman who is sort of tasked with cleaning up after her younger sister who keeps killing people. I read, I want to say, a third of this book, and I was enjoying it. I just think at the time I was in a really like strong romance mood, and it's obviously not a romance, so I just put it to one side and then never got back around to it, but it is something that I would like to finish. And then we have Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney, and this is billed as a cross between Alice in Wonderland and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that line alone is what made me buy it, because if anything is crossed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's adding to cart. I have a friend who has read that and really, really recommends it, so it is one that I do want to get to at some point. Then we have Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, which is a very popular short story collection. Again, it's one that I keep meaning to pick up and just never seem to get to. I've got such a weird relationship with short stories, but I'm going to try and prioritize it soon if I can. Then we have Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which is another self-help book. Mouthful of Blood by Toni Morrison. So this is one of her essay collections, and it is so this is where I wanted to start with my Toni Morrison exploration, because I've wanted to read her work for quite a time, but I always resist picking up her fiction just because it all sounds so depressing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think over the past couple of years, I've just wanted to avoid adding more depressing things to my life, just because, you know, there's enough there already. There's enough to be depressed about. So I thought maybe starting with an essay collection of hers would be kind of like the gateway drug to the rest of her work. Then we have The Botanist's Daughter by Katie Nunn. I remember picking this up because my best friend at the time had just picked it up and we were going to read it together. And we didn't, but I did read it. and it was fun. It's a historical fiction dual timeline. I had a good enough time reading it. It was a quick read. Not too much more to say about it really. Aphorism by Af and Sil Co. So this is an essay collection that is, how do I want to describe it? It's a funny one to describe. First of all, the cover is stunning. So it's a collection of essays at the sort of intersection of anti-racism and veganism. Like, that feels like the most appropriate way to describe it. Yeah. And I have started reading this, and I've talked about this many times, but with essay collections, I find it so easy to just put them down when I get to the end of an essay and not pick them up again. With this one, the writing is a little bit academic and dense, so if you're not in the mood where you really want to think, then it's probably not one for you. But if you are, then it absolutely is. It's very well written and clearly well researched, and it is probably one that I'm gonna dip back into at another time. It's probably just not one that I'm ever gonna read cover to cover. Then we have You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, which is like classic self-help. Then we have Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. I read that, in fact I read that on my birthday that year, and I read it all in one go, and I really did enjoy that one. I think I have her next book sitting on my Kindle as we speak, and it's one that I want to get to this summer if I can. Then we have There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce, which is a poetry collection by Morgan Parker. I also read that on my birthday that year, and yeah, it's a poetry collection. It's good. There were some that I liked more than others. It was one of those collections where I didn't necessarily love every single poem, but you know, that happens, it's okay. And last but not least, we had an audiobook, which was We're Going to Need More Wine by Gabrielle Union, and I really enjoyed listening to it. She narrates it herself, which is always fun. Yeah, good time. Then in 2021, so last year, we had 4 physical books and 5 ebooks. So let's look at the physical books first. So we had Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I still haven't read that one, but I do want to. We know that it's like a classic fantasy / sci-fi story that involves time travel between the 1970s and times of slavery. So I know it's not necessarily going to be a light fun read, but it is something that I do want to get to. We also have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. We all know what this is about. Girl makes deal with devil, girl has to live forever, and no one ever remembers her, in a nutshell. I started reading it. I've read about half, maybe just under half, and at the time I was just not in the mood for something slow. Now don't get me wrong, the writing is beautiful, it's so lovely, but I just wasn't in the mood for something slow paced, and it is very very slow paced, so I did put it down. But it is something that I want to go back to. Maybe I need to do a reading challenge where I complete things I've only half read, because there would be a lot. Then we have Playing Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth, which was honestly one of my favourite books of last year. I absolutely adored it, and it will probably be an all-time favourite until the day that I die. I thought it was so good. So good, really good, exceptionally good. Very glad that I bought myself that gift for my birthday. And then we had The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I haven't read yet. Oh wait, one of the things that I said was an ebook was not an ebook, it was an audiobook, which was Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So I picked that up last year while I was taking some time off for my birthday. I remember doing my gardening while listening to Chloe and Red have sexy time, and yeah, it was fun. It was okay. It's not the best romance that I've ever had. None of the Brown Sisters series are, in my opinion. They're fine, they're good, they're enjoyable, and I would recommend them, but I don't know where I was going with that. Then we have 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Loved that. That was another one of my all-time favourites of last year. In fact, 7 Days in June and Plain Bad Heroines were in my top 3 books of the year. So I did a great job picking books for myself in 2021. But it is a romance of sorts between a couple, and you're seeing their relationship when they first met as teenagers over the course of 7 Days in June, and then when they reconnect as adults again over 7 Days in June. Dual timelines, stunning writing, loved it, had some just brilliant representation of chronic illness and mental health and all kinds of like really important issues and I just loved. I thought it was impeccable. I will not hear a word said against it. That is the end. Good night. Then we had Talk Bookish to Me by Kate Bromley. This is a book that I actually read in April. And then I'm pretty sure I forgot to talk about it in my April wrap up. It was exceedingly average. It was a romance that you did have to suspend your disbelief in areas to accept what they were trying to give you, and the writing style was maddening. It was one of those books where, wherever possible, there were 2 adjectives to describe everything. So this was not just a scrunchie, it was a soft pink scrunchie. This is not just a post-it, this is a square fluorescent orange post-it. This is not just a pen, this is a green and pink prized pen. This is not just a water bottle, this is a heavy pink water bottle. Like honestly, like that's what it was, just like page after page after page after page. I think I only like saw it through and didn't DNF it because I had COVID brain, so nothing was making me happy. But I read it. Then we have House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, which is one that I still actually really want to read. In fact, I'm going to try and read that this summer, I think. But yeah, I haven't got to it yet. And then last but not least, we have 100 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna West. Haven't read that one either. I have quite a few essay collections I need to get to. I just get through them very, very slowly. Like I said, it's not something that I can rip through in a single setting, but it is what it is. So all in all, mixed bag. Like 2021, I feel like I picked some really like strong choices there, which I'm pleased with. So there are definitely things on this list from like most of the years that I still want to read. Would you be interested in seeing me do a video on those? I would love to know. So hit me up in the comments if that's something that you're interested in. And also if you're interested in that one I mentioned where I finish books that I previously set aside. If yes, I will do that video for you too. I'm still feeling pretty good about this habit of mine of buying birthday books. I know I don't always read them, but I don't care. I love having choices. So it is what it is. And I will absolutely be buying more books for myself this birthday, and I'm sure I will do a video to talk you through those too. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. Go have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you in my next upload.